It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of Labor Day weekend, September 3rd, 2004. We got 4 movies to look at today, and we're still in the dumping weeks between early August and late September. And we got 4 films here, like I said, and half of them are at least something that's tolerable. The others, not so much. In fact, actually, the more I think about it, it's like a sandwich right now, because we've got 2 good movies in the middle. It's like the meat in the middle, and then you got these 2 old pieces of bread that are just absolutely horrible. Case in point with the first movie we have here, the Mel Gibson produced Paparazzi. Because clearly we need to have a movie that shows us just how evil the paparazzi really is. Keep in mind, this was before TMZ became famous, but yeah, this is a movie that clearly needs to tell the story of how evil the paparazzi is. When, you know, honestly, you could just go back to 1997 and listen to George Clooney give the paparazzi a stern talking to.
My first reaction has been to stay out of this. I want to be fair to the princess. This is not about me. But as I sit in front of my TV listening to tabloid journalists and editors dodging their own responsibility and placing the blame on a drunken driver or society or Princess Di, I now feel that the only fair thing that I can do is stand up and make one clear, concise statement. Stand up and ask this to the self-appointed spokesman Stephen Kaz, the editor of the National Enquirer, and all other tabloids positioning themselves as innocents. Princess Di is dead. And who should we see about that?
That whole segment right there is much better than anything in this piece of garbage. As I mentioned before, this is the story of a Hollywood film star, Bo Laramie, played by Cole Hauser, who, in the aftermath of a car crash caused by 4 paparazzo tabloid photographers led by Tom Sizemore. I almost said Armand Asante, but no, that's Tom Sizemore. Bo soon goes on a quest to get revenge on the gang for almost killing him and his family. So, you can kind of see the problem with the movie right off the bat. It tries to make you think that the paparazzi are just evil monsters, and it took this movie finally to get people to realize that. But this is like the equivalent of making a movie about Karens in 2021. People already know who Karens are, and they're more believable in viral videos than they are in a movie made by Hollywood that's clearly trying to show how evil they can truly be. And there's a good possibility here for a movie in general, but this just takes it to another level of stupidness. I mean, first of all, this director, I don't want to trust a director who was an ex-hairdresser. He was literally an ex-hairdresser who made this movie, and he has not made anything of noteworthiness ever since, and probably for a good reason. But it doesn't help that, yeah, there's a point in the movie where they try to make the paparazzi look like the good guys because Cole Hauser turns into Charles Bronson from Death Wish. I mean, it's literally a Death Wish knockoff, except this time around there's nobody dead in this guy's life. But no, he's going to take his revenge out of these guys for Death Wish style. But we can't go too far because it's PG-13, and heaven forbid if we make a PG-13 rated movie, you know, we can do as much as we can in a PG-13 movie than anything that Death Wish could do in an R-rated movie, which, yeah, that's a load of crap altogether. The only thing that's notable about this movie is, as I said at the beginning, this is a Mel Gibson-produced movie, and for a movie produced by Mel Gibson, you expect a whole lot better from him involved in it, but really, like I said, the biggest problem with the movie is the fact that we don't need a movie like this to tell us how evil the paparazzi is. I mean, these are sick. I mean, these are evil people. Like, TMZ has ruined being a celebrity pretty much in general, because because they will do whatever it takes to get any kind of shots. They will do anything to get any breaking news first. I mean, they try their hardest to be the place they go to whenever breaking news happens. I mean, they were the ones that first broke Michael Jackson dying. I mean, that's how far those people go. Like, those people are more evil than anybody in this movie. Plus, it also doesn't help that, like I said, they try to make the paparazzi the good guys once the lead guy in this goes on this killing spree, and it's baffling how bad this movie is. It's a movie that is really tone deaf. It's a movie that's very tasteless. It's a film that has no idea what direction it wants to go into. It's a terrible movie. It's a movie that's a perfect movie to open up on Labor Day weekend, because the studio probably looked at this and said, wow, this is fucking terrible. Put it out on Labor Day weekend and just see what happens. Maybe it'll be the big hit of the weekend. And it was the best viewed film of the weekend. Too bad it didn't make its money back. Only cost $20 million and it barely made $16 million back. So, yeah, there you go. That's Paparazzi. And so let's go ahead and dig into the meat of this week. Some pretty good movies in general. Let's start off with the criminally underrated Josh Hartnett and Rose Byrne in Wicker Park. Yeah, I bet most people forgot that Rose Byrne can actually speak with an American accent back in the day, and nowadays we know her more for her comedies and speaking in her native accent of Australia with the Bridesmaids, Neighbors, all those movies, Spy. But this movie is actually really, really good. You have Josh Hartnett playing a young advertising executive in Chicago who puts his life and a business trip to China on hold when he thinks about seeing this woman named Lisa, played by Diane Kruger, who is the love of his life, who walked on him without a word 2 years earlier. Walking out of a restaurant one day, and with a little help from his friend, he obsessively and relentlessly tracks Lisa down, and while doing so, runs into another woman, played by Rose Byrne, who also calls herself Lisa, whom, unknown to Matthew, is an actress named Alex, and may hold the key to Lisa's disappearance and discovery. And like I said before, this is a really good film. It's a film that is essentially a movie that is basically taking the idea of... It's a story based off of the French film called Les Appartements with Monica Bellucci that came out in '96, and then that, in turn, was actually based off of a Shakespeare story, A Midsummer Night's Dream. And the film itself is really intense and really incredible to look at. I mean, it's a really good film. Everybody plays their parts very well. Josh Hartnett, I think, is very good in the film. Rose Byrne is very good. Diane Kruger, who plays Lisa in here, is very good. Matthew Lillard's pretty good in the movie. I mean, there's a lot of good things about the film in general. It's a really good mystery, too, because it makes you think, like, okay, this woman played by Rose Byrne is clearly involved in this, and she's the one that probably did something, and you think that, okay, it's going to go to where I think it's going to go. And then it really doesn't. It actually does play with your expectations a little bit, and it toys around with it. And it does play around with the ideas of it all. Like, Josh Hartnett falls for Rose Byrne, and he can't really decide on which direction to go to here. And I really like that they take those chances and do something very different and very unique with it. This is directed by Paul McGuigan, who would actually direct Josh Hartnett again with the next film they would do together, and that's Lucky Number 11, which is another really good, underrated film. That one definitely much better than this film, but this film overall is really, really good. I thought it was very well done. It's a really good mystery film. Everybody plays their parts very well. It's visually pleasing to look at. It's a really cool movie, man. I definitely recommend checking it out, Wicker Park. So that's Wicker Park. Moving on to the next movie, and that is Mira Nair's Vanity Fair. Reese Witherspoon plays Becky Sharp, who's the orphan daughter of a painter and singer, and she leaves a home for girls to become a governess armed with a keen wit, good looks, fluent French, and an eye for social advancement. Society tries its best to keep her from climbing, and it's an episodic narrative following her from 20 years through marriage, Napoleonic Wars, a child loyal to a school friend, some of these words are very hard for me to pronounce. The vicissitudes, Vicissitudes, I'm not saying that again, of the family whose daughter she instructed, and attention from a bored Marcus who collects her father's paintings. Honesty tempts her schemes, and this is based off of William Makepeace Thackeray's storyline of Vanity Fair, which has been made into several different movies, 6 before this, including the most recent one being from 1935 called Becky Sharp. And this movie is notable for doing things that are different to the character of Becky Sharp, which does make it a lot more interesting than I think it gives a lot of credit for. It also helps when you have somebody like Julian Fellows, who would later go on to create Downton Abbey, and a director like Mira Nair, who's made some really good movies in her career, including criminally underrated stuff like Mississippi Masala, Monsoon Wedding, The Perez Family. Just a good director overall. Queen of Katwe, her last film she did, was really good. And this is a really good film with a lot of good performances led by Reese Witherspoon, Romola Gary, James Purefoy, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, Reese Ifans, Jim Broadbent, Gabriel Byrne is also in the movie, Bob Hoskins as well. Robert Pattinson has an uncredited appearance in this movie too. This is actually a film that eventually was initially a small but important role as the grown-up son of Sharp, but it was then discovered that the scenes were cut during the premiere screening for it. But he is in the film, but it's a visually pleasing film to look at in general. It's a film that is very good, very nice to look at. It's a good period piece movie. It's a good performance by Reese Witherspoon. It really does a very good job of creating something new and different for the storyline from the book and actually doing something very different with it. And I think it does a very good job of handling that. It's another criminally underrated film that came out this weekend. Like I said, you would think a lot of this weekend movies would be pretty much just forgettable pieces of garbage, but there were a couple of little gems there. Wicker Park and this film, Vanity Fair. So, yeah, definitely one I would highly recommend checking out. With that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, and that is the comedy The Cookout. I mean, to its credit, it's better than Soul Plane, which really isn't saying all that much. It's better than Johnson Family Vacation, which really isn't saying a whole lot. It's, I was going to say it's better than Malibu's Most Wanted, but even then, Malibu's Most Wanted still had some fun moments to it. This is about what you'd expect from a movie of this type. You have a movie that has, it's a story of a basketball player played by Storm P, who joins the New Jersey Nets, is drafted by the New Jersey Nets, with his parents celebrating with a family cookout at his new home, while a former classmate played by Ja Rule comes up with a devious plot. And you also have a cast that includes Tim Meadows, Jennifer Lewis, Megan Good, Jonathan Silverman, Frankie Faison, Eve, Danny Glover, Queen Latifah's in the movie, and Farrah Fawcett. Interestingly enough, this was actually the last film Farrah Fawcett did before she died. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to think that this is the last movie she did before she passed away. And this was coming around the same time there was a show called Method and Red on Fox, which I actually thought was a pretty fun show in general. It was one of those shows that Fox was trying to attempt to do, like, to create a summer block of original shows, and Method and Red. There was also Quintuplets. There was also North Shore. They were doing it essentially because the OC the year before was very successful, and they thought, let's take it to the next level and do something unique and have our own schedule of shows to lead us into the fall. Method and Red was actually kind of a fun show in general with some good writing overall, but unfortunately it didn't last very long. It was pretty much canceled after the first season, and it was definitely a lot funnier than something like this. This is pretty much what you'd expect it to be, but unlike a lot of the movies I talked about, Soul Plane and Johnson Family Vacation, it's not a bad movie in general. There are things about it that sometimes they'll get a chuckle here and there, but even then, it's a pretty lackluster movie. There's nothing really laugh-out-loud funny in here. It doesn't really do anything that truly spectacular or anything groundbreaking with it. It's just kind of a passable film. It's just like, I saw it, I literally had nothing coming out of it to really make me say it's something that you should see. It just kind of came and went, quite honestly. It's a movie that's like vapor. You see it once, you never watch it again afterwards, but you never feel like you didn't lose any brain cells from it. It's just a movie that's just not that great of a film in general. It's a film that really is just honestly not a bland movie. There's nothing really that funny about it. There's nothing that clever about it. Everybody's doing the best they can with the material given to them, and even then, it's not enough for me to say that this is something that should be seen. It's just a movie that is really just mediocre at best. I mean, it's a film that is just meh. I mean, it's nothing that clever. It's nothing that funny. It's just kind of there. And like I said, it's better than some of the other movies I've talked about already with Soul Plane, Johnson Family Vacation, but still nothing about it that makes me say it's something that you have to see. It's just kind of like, it's there. I mean, I don't find a whole lot with it, but apparently it was successful enough through DVD to get a sequel made for BET. But because it wasn't a hit at the box office, it didn't even make back its $16 million budget. $16 million budget. I thought I said 60, but 16, like 16, 8 times 2. So, but yeah. Other than that, though, The Cookout just seems like a movie that's just very bland, forgettable, and at least it's not terrible, though. It's not like I said, it's not Soul Plane, it's not Johnson Family Vacation, but even then, that's not really saying a whole lot to this film's credit. And so, on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll take a look at 2 big new movies coming out next week, including Mila Jovovich in the sequel to Resident Evil Apocalypse. We also have Chris Evans, Kim Basinger, and Jason Statham in the thriller Cellular. So we'll take a look at both of those movies on tomorrow's show. But until then, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the place on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.